Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's discussion on personal leadership and spiritual development, and in particular, what does that mean for women? I'm Rebecca Gabriel. This has always been an interesting and fascinating topic for me because I work in the space of spiritual development, and I really have been fascinated all my life with how we behave, how we think, and what it means to be our true self. I really feel that personal leadership really is about connecting with our inner truth and living in a way that means that we are being authentic to our highest self and living to our highest values, which really means what is most important to us. Now, I suppose spiritual development is incorporated into that when we acknowledge that personal leadership is about how we live out our spiritual practices in our life. Now, spiritual practices may be things like increasing our self-awareness for our own spiritual growth, and we can do this through meditation, yoga practices, mindfulness, being very reflective, giving ourselves that space to really connect with our inner truth and our higher wisdom. Incorporating that into our everyday life does require us to be somewhat conscious of what it is that we're doing and how we're living and the choices that we're making. And of course, personal leadership in general is meaning that we're living with a greater sense of self-awareness and that we recognize that we do actually have choice in our life. So are we looking at our choices and the things that we're choosing to do and give our time and energy to? Are we making a conscious decision to do what is best for our health and well-being, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? So if we are living in a way we are personally leading ourselves, it means that we are making choices that are aligned with our highest good, supports and serves our well-being, and of course is also aligned with what we personally believe and what we value in our life. I'd like to also sort of suggest that the way women live out their personal leadership in the context of their spiritual development may be expressed differently to men. Of course, personal leadership is defined in the same way for men and women, but men and women are different and we do express ourselves differently, and we are perhaps also shaped and influenced somewhat by the societal rules and the context with which we live in, the influences that we're subject to. There is gender bias out there, and so I think that also plays a part in the way women express their personal leadership and how they express their spirituality as well. Doesn't have to be different, but let's just say there probably is some gender differences. Now, there have been a lot of people who have written on this topic, myself included, and there's a lot we can learn from those experts in the space, and people like Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle are, experts in the area of personal leadership. But we can look to female authors and those who have a very prominent spiritual practice and in the public space to also be a beautiful guide to women and show us a way to model what it means to have personal leadership. And I'm sort of bringing to mind people like Colette Baron-Reid, for instance, Marianne Williamson, Denise Lynn. These are all people that I read about and follow, and many other people do as well. And even the beautiful Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote the book and a film was created about Eat, Pray, Love. being our authentic self, women learning to live their truth in their own authenticity. And, it does somewhat mean bucking the rules of society sometimes as well. I'd be really fascinated to hear about what you feel is personal leadership in your life, particularly if you're a woman, but we're going to open this conversation to both men and women. It's not about creating a difference between the two, but really fascinated to hear from you about what you feel personal leadership is and how are you living that in your life. And I'd also like to sort of share with you some guest speakers to be a part of that conversation over the next few episodes. So I hope you will enjoy that. And certainly I would love to get some of your feedback. Now let's take a little bit of a look at what we define or what is defined as personal leadership. So, basically we're going to look at the principles of self-leadership, which really means how you are leading yourself and what sort of spiritual practices and values that you have, and how are they aligning with your sense of your higher purpose. And do you understand what your purpose is in this life? Sometimes that's a whole episode in itself. But it does come down to what you feel is your purpose in this lifetime in terms of your soul's direction. What are you here to learn? What are you here to contribute? And are you doing all that you can, or are we doing all that we can to lead ourselves confidently, with clarity, with a sense of certainty in our day-to-day living? Are we making choices that support our higher purpose? So this is how I would frame it in a spiritual context. So it's about having that sense of personal vision for our life and imagining how it is that we live that out in our day-to-day way of doing things, the way we are speaking, how we are thinking, the way we are interacting with others, the choices that we're making for where we put our time and our energy and our resources. It's also about creating some sense of structure and commitment in our life that demonstrates that this is really important to us. So we would have what I would call guiding principles for one's life. So just to give you an example, I've recognized over a period of time that probably my 3 top values, which have become my guiding principles in life, are living a life of simplicity, or at least that's what I'm striving to do. Why do I feel that this is important to me? Well, I know that the opposite of that puts me in a place of overwhelm and confusion, and I don't do very well at leading myself. So a life where I'm creating an approach that's simpler gives me more clarity. It helps to calm my nervous system, which means I'm calming my inner world, my mind, my emotions, and eventually my body. And this is good for me. And of course, when I've got clarity and I have calmness within, I develop a beautiful sense of self-compassion for myself. So simplicity is a very important value for me and is now a guiding principle. So if I'm feeling like my world has been rocked and I'm not having a great day or week, I remind myself to come back to a place of simplicity. And this helps me to get back on track with being my true self. The other value that's really important to me is inspiration. Now, what I mean by this is allowing myself to be guided by a higher inspiration, the divine. I also receive a lot of inspiration when I connect with the divine, which could be God, the universe, however you like to frame it, or your soul. And also with nature. And when I'm connected in this way, I feel a closeness and I'm resonating with that sort of vibration. Then I feel inspired and I receive insights. And this helps me to connect in with my purpose. And with the truth of who I am, how I perceive myself to be, so my authentic self. And then lastly, a value that's very important to me is taking action. And what I mean by that, it's the right kind of action, meaning that once I've found some clarity in my life and I'm living in a way that's inspiring, where I feel inspired and I can inspire others, it's now really important that I put that into practice and I lead myself, I lead my life for the purpose of personal progress, for my own development and spiritual growth. It's important that I lead myself and I do things that are aligned with that. So that's what I mean by action. So maybe you might even get a chance one day to really sit down and reflect on what you believe are your values. And if this is something that's feeling a little bit unfamiliar to you, of course, we've got ways to be able to help you through that process. So you can always reach out to me. Let's get back into personal leadership and spiritual development. So certainly having the capacity to face the storms in life, our spiritual challenges, the setbacks that we feel. Look, if we're not leading ourselves well, we could be in the habit of having a fiery temper or reacting very spontaneously and impulsively when things don't go well. And we might find that we have certain habits that we go, oh gosh, I'm doing that again. It's not great. I put myself in a space of anxiety and stress, or I, do something impulsively and I regret the outcome. However, if we're leading ourselves well, developing a sense of spiritual resilience for managing those storms is really important. So it's coming back to, how do we manage our emotions? How do we manage the way we respond to things that happen in life? And as we develop the muscle to manage the way we think, manage our emotions, and then manage our behaviours, of course we're going to spiritually evolve. We are demonstrating that we're leading ourselves, personal leadership. Another way that we can be demonstrating personal leadership in our life, of course, is around service and contribution. So when we have a heart and some compassion to serve others, that comes really, I suppose, from as a result of actually leading ourselves really well first. I would say, like anybody who's desiring to serve others or even to lead others, like you would in a workplace or in your business, in order to be a really great leader of others, it's really important that we lead ourselves really well. But certainly that can extend to serving others by doing good deeds, volunteering, charity, anything where we are contributing to the greater good. Is a way that we can show leadership for others, but also leadership for ourselves. And the kind of things that we would do would involve acts of kindness, compassion, community involvement, and using our natural gifts and talents to support and uplift other people, seeing the good in others, encouraging others, and helping to empower others. Or at least, helping others to see how they can empower themselves. And obviously for all of us, personal leadership means, are we growing? Are we learning? Staying stagnant, not recognizing how we can self-reflect and improve our own behavior would not be an example of personal leadership. But if we're very mindful of being self-reflective and open enough and relaxed enough to really kind of self-assess whether what we're saying and doing is helping us to grow. Is it helping others? Could we improve the way we're thinking about things or doing things? Are we positively focused and forward focused? Or do we have a tendency to be a little bit self-defeatist? Do we dwell on the past and things that we can no longer change or control? So this is all part of the path of learning and growing, and what contributes to personal leadership. And certainly having a sense of connection with the universe, recognizing that whilst we on a day-to-day basis see ourselves as being different, and I suppose if we're talking about personal leadership, it may lead us to the discussion around personal identity, personalities, and certainly that's how we demonstrate to some degree our uniqueness and what makes us a little bit different to the next person. But then if we take it to a deeper level, we recognize that we're actually all connected with each other and the divine, and that we are all living, spiritual and energetic beings. So this is recognizing our interconnectedness of all of life, and it's beautiful when we can foster that sense of unity and compassion for oneself and with others. Now, some fabulous people who there's loads of people out there who've written books on they may not necessarily call it personal leadership, but certainly about spiritual development. I think I mentioned Eckhart Tolle, and he has written the book The Power of Now, you might know it, and A New Earth, both of which sort of emphasize the importance of living in the present moment and being very mindful of our spiritual essence and how this impacts the way we lead ourselves in our life. Deepak Chopra has certainly been a wonderful advocate and author on spiritual wisdom and how we incorporate that into our everyday life. And we've talked about many others. Anyway, lots of opportunities for us to explore what others have contributed to this conversation. So why is it something that we should be talking about? Why do we want to talk about personal leadership? Well, really, from a basic point of view, we're all going to experience a better quality of life and a deeper and richer understanding of ourselves when we are leading ourselves well. So, to lead ourselves well, we're educating ourselves. We're having this process of self-exploration, reflection, and assessment. And this process helps us to be a better version of ourselves. And when we're a better version of ourselves, we're making choices that serve our well-being, supports our well-being, makes us a better human in terms of how we are interacting with other people. We're perhaps utilizing more wisdom in the way we behave, in our choices in everyday life. We are becoming more mindful and conscious of how to be compassionate or empathetic towards others and living creatures, how we live on this planet in a much healthier and more considerate way. It's certainly going to help us to expand our sense of fulfillment in life because we're resonating with what we believe is our purpose for being here, which means utilizing our natural gifts and talents in order to grow and to serve. And certainly overall, as we are living with personal leadership, we're raising our vibration. We're living in a way where we live with integrity. And this means that we're raising our energy so that, we become an attractive, powerful force in the world rather than a draining force. I think we've all sort of recognized what it means to be around someone of low vibration versus someone of high vibration. I just give the example of you may have a friend or of someone who is in the unfortunate habit of always focusing on the negative, what's not working well. And so a lot of their conversation may be very draining and talking about why things are not working well, or they may be externalizing and talking about other people or situations. Whereas someone who's high vibrational will be showing and demonstrating accountability for their choices in their life and focused on learning, self-learning and growing and improving and looking at the possibilities of life what is possible. And all of this contributes to a beautiful optimistic outlook and energy, which is what makes up for a higher vibration way of living. So my friends, this is a big topic, a fascinating topic. We get an opportunity to improve our lives. So I'm really passionate about speaking on this topic with you, sharing with you, hearing from you. How are you living your version of personal leadership? And if you're not, let's open the topic, let's open the channel to talk about it, to talk about how we can do that, ways of doing that, any struggles that we may sometimes encounter in terms of leading ourselves well. And, if you're a human being, you are going to have challenges when it comes to personal leadership. Let's just face it. None of us do it perfectly. So I want to thank you, my friends, for joining us on this introductory episode on personal leadership and spiritual development. And let's do more of this. Let's open it up to a conversation so that we can learn and grow and share this with each other. So that's it from me for today. I hope you've enjoyed at least the beginning of this topic, and I'd love to hear from you. And let's chat again, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.